What new habits can you adopt to help you achieve your goals? That's what you've been asked in today's daily episode. Welcome to another episode of Find Yourself the Questions podcast. I'm Bernd Wenske, your host and co-pilot on this journey of self-discovery and personal growth. This show is all about assisting you in achieving mindful self-improvement and elevating your life without any pressure or control. Our special guest today is someone who has not only experienced personal growth, but has also dedicated their life to helping others reach their full potential. Today on this show, I'm excited to be joined by Adrian Knight. Adrian is the accomplished acquisition entrepreneur, adventurer, and endurance athlete. He has built a multi-million children's education group from the ground up in less than 3 years. But Adrian's journey to success wasn't always easy. At 19, he experienced a nervous breakdown followed by alcoholism and other addictions. He spent almost a decade traveling the world trying to escape his inner demons. It wasn't until he started to be true to his authentic self and prioritized his personal development and well-being that his life turned around. Adrian credits his personal growth and mindset as the secret sauce to his business and endurance success. Today, Adrian leaves the running of his children's education group to others, while he spends time working on his personal growth and sharing his story with others. He's a passionate advocate for mental health and well-being, and he believes that everyone has the potential to achieve their dreams, no matter their past. I'm so excited to have Adrian on the show today to talk about his journey to success, his personal development routine, and his advice for others looking to achieve their goals. Stay tuned for a great conversation. Please join me in welcoming Adrian Knight to the Find Yourself the Questions podcast.
Hello, Bernd. Hello, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Great to have you on the show, Adrian.
Thank you.
Adrian, one of the things that I'm really interested in talking to you about today is how you were able to overcome your addictions and turn your life around. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where do I start with this? There's so many facets to this. The first thing to say really is that I'm naturally a very ambitious person. I want to not just succeed in a financial term or a career term, but I want to succeed in life. I really want to live a full life, and for years I struggled to do so because I kept coming up against myself. It was those inner demons and those inner blocks that I was too terrified to face, but ultimately held me back. And so the turning point came when I essentially started to gather the courage to be, right, I'm going to confront this. And it wasn't a process that was done overnight, and it certainly wasn't something that was approached in one go. And today, as we're sitting here talking, I've still got stuff, and I believe we don't ever fully overcome them. But it was that conscious decision that these things I want to happen on the outside first need to make changes on the inside. And it was quite simply the case of starting to confront those fears when things started to change and when everything started to move forward in ways which, quite honestly, I couldn't have even imagined at the time.
Mm-hmm. Tell me something about the importance of personal development and well-being.
My experience of life so far, and I'm very blessed to have lived a full life. I've traveled over 45 countries. I've seen business success, financial success. I'm happily married, got a beautiful family. My experience with all of that has shown me that the commonality between all of that is me the same as with everyone else. It's them. They are the commonality. And quite often, well, not even quite often, all the time, we are our biggest bottlenecks. And so the process of personal development and the whole concept of personal development is that you're making that bottleneck slightly bigger so that you can allow more life to flow through, whether that be financial, career, family, love, whatever it is, health. By making that bottleneck bigger, you just simply allow the space for more flow of life.
I resonate with your message. Can you share more about your journey from a nervous breakdown and addiction to becoming an acquisition entrepreneur and endurance athlete? So what inspired you to make that transformation?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a journey in many ways, and that journey probably took around 10 years. So there was multiple journeys within the journey, if that makes sense. But the nervous breakdown happened. And what happened before that was I was actually on a high of life. I had just backpacked around Europe, came back. Life could not have been better. I could literally taste it in my mouth. And so I was more surprised than anyone for like 12 months later to be having this quite severe nervous breakdown and not really knowing what to do, and going like from a place of being quite confident enough to travel across Europe by myself as an 18-year-old, to not even being able to look people in the eye and to barely bring myself to leave the house. Like it was a real shock more than anything else. And so I decided, because I went to see the doctors and I was prescribed quite a lot of medicines and like sleeping pills, and I remember sitting on my bed at my parents' house and I had the pills in one hand, and I made a very deliberate, conscious decision that was not for me. I was going to find out, and I was going to rebuild myself organically. I didn't want to rely on this external medicine that I didn't really understand or know what it was. And so I made that decision, and it was a longer path for sure, but I've never regretted that decision. And so since then, it's been a process of brick by brick. Like, it's the only way I can really explain it. Like building my confidence brick by brick, building my experience and skill sets and social skills and everything in between, my health, my fitness, brick by brick. And inevitably you put up a couple of bricks and then one falls down, and so you have to you take a step back and you put up another brick, you rebuild it, and then you go again, and gradually over a period of time you start to build this wall. And I'm using the word wall quite carefully here, because in the context of this discussion, people can assume it's being a blocker, but for me, it was more a wall I was standing on, and I could all of a sudden see. And I just kept going, really, to the point now where, and I say this with I don't want it to come across in the wrong way. I mean this with as much sort of humility and modesty as possible. But I sort of look around, and I'm one of the most confident people I know. Like, I rarely meet people who are confident in themselves and going after what they want in life and being able to control and regulate themselves. And again, I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance, but it's just an observation that from that, when you focus on this, you can really, really build yourself. And when you build yourself, your world becomes your oyster in a way. It's not what is in terms of what's out there, it's the who. You need to focus on who you are and who you want to become.
Yeah, I understand your focus and how important it is to focus.
Yeah.
Building a multi-million children's education group in under 3 years is an impressive achievement. You need focus for this. Could you describe the key strategies and mindset shifts that contributed to your success in business?
Absolutely, and I kind of want to touch on and build on what I just mentioned, because a lot of people approach me and they say, basically, how have you done this? And then, can you show me how to do the same or something similar? How have you built quite a big business in a relatively short period of time without necessarily working in the business day to day? Like it's quite, like, it goes against common wisdom. But it comes back to, it's not the what, it's the who. Like, who did I have to be to do that? And so I was a very bad startup entrepreneur. Like, I had 12 failed startups, but I kept going because I knew what I wanted to do, and it was the who I was building. I was building the resilience and the persistence, like the character. That was the who. And then I'd always liked the idea of this principle of like buying and selling businesses. It just really spoke to me. So I started to train and to develop some knowledge in that. And then I went straight out, again, the confidence to go straight out and to start speaking to business owners, though I'd never done anything like this before. I had zero business success. I didn't have any money, but it was the who, the confidence to be able to do that. And I ended up buying my first business within 3 months, and that was a 30-year-old company. And I sold that 2 years later for a very healthy 6-figure profit. And I just kept going. And then I stumbled across the children's education space when I became a dad. I was completely oblivious of this whole world, which is children. And then all of a sudden I was a dad, and this little girl was rocking my life upside down, inside out, which I say with, complete, I wouldn't want it any other way. And I started to understand this world, and I didn't really like what I was seeing. And I just felt that those early years in particular of a child's life, those first 5 years, are so pivotal to how their lives pan out, that I just wanted to have my input. And so I applied that skills in a different way, and that's when things took off. And just my last point on this is that, and I think this is really important, I had no agenda or no goal to build this into a multi-million group. Like, I honestly didn't. I'm more surprised than anyone when I look at the businesses, because I'm like, how did this happen? But it came from a place of, I just wanted to make a difference to a child's life. And if I've made a difference to one child, it would, that was it. That's all I needed. But yeah, it's so important to support our children, because they are the future and we need them for existing in future. So there may be some time when we get older that we are not able to take care about all our affairs, and then we need our children to fix the things that need to be fixed. We need our children to fix the future challenges. Nobody knows today what they will be, so we need good minds and we need strong children to fix them in future. And that's exactly how I look at it, and how I've always looked at it. And I think this stems from my love for personal growth and personal development, which is, I may not be able to solve all of the world's problems, but if I can help someone or inspire someone to be more than they think they are, and they go off and solve a problem or a small problem within that world, then that is a life well spent. Mm-hmm. You've mentioned that being true to your authentic self was a turning point in your life. How did you discover your authentic self, and how has it influenced your personal and professional development? This is a really big one that I don't think people recognize enough. For me, it came from a very long period of observation. So I've been writing the journal for 20 years. My first journal was when I went backpacking when I was in Europe, when I was 18, and I've just turned 38. And I've literally, right next to my desk here, I have boxes and boxes full of all those journals that I've organised, and I plan to read them all. But what that has sort of done was it created a self-awareness, when over a period of time you start to notice patterns, and then you start to question those patterns, such as, I'll give you an example in my business life. Like, I built my previous business, I was running that for 6 years, but I hated running a business, and I hate running a business. Like, a day-to-day business. It's just not me. I'm too entrepreneurial for that. And so when I finally accepted that and I stopped trying to be, say, the boss running the business on a day-to-day, and I became more of the owner of the business, and I was the one who was hiring the boss, and then I went out and found another business to put together so those two bosses can work, and took that approach. I was being more authentic to me, but it equaled like greater success, certainly, than if I was in there in the first business just running it myself. And so I think this is a big one for people. Like, you almost certainly know, kind of, you have a sense for, oh God, I would just love to do that more than anything else. I would suggest that's your authentic self speaking through, and I would suggest to really listen to that and maybe drop some of the stories you may be telling yourself about why you can't do that.
Yes, I understand. So you have an entrepreneurial spirit, and this is part of your authentic life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So in short, how can our listeners live a more authentic life?
The first step to doing this is to create some space for yourself. This is why I'm so big on like morning routines and waking up a little bit earlier in the morning and using that for yourself, because it's very hard to even know what an authentic life looks like for you if you're so busy. If you get out of bed and you're straight into mum or dad mode or work mode, and you have very little time and space for yourself, like, you have to create some space. And in a very short period, as you start to sit in that space, so let's make this a bit more real. Like, let's say you wake up 30 minutes earlier, and you do that every single day, and you go downstairs or you go to your kitchen and you make a cup of tea or coffee or whatever your drink of choice is, and you sit there and you don't go on your social media, you certainly don't check emails, but you sit there. You may decide you want to start using that time to read or to journal, but it's just some time and space for you. And in a very short period, two things happen. One is that you start to relish that time, as like it very quickly becomes the best part of your day. And the second thing is you start to get different thoughts and different ideas. Like this authentic you starts to come up, and you start to have more inspired thoughts, which will take you down like the path that I would suggest your authentic self, wants to go down.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me that he is getting up an hour earlier than he has to get up.
Yeah.
Just to have time for himself to start the day right and not even check his emails or social media before 10 a.m. and to do a lot of things. Maybe 10 things in advance, and then start into, the outer world.
This has been a game changer for me, like a real game changer, to the point where I started by getting up half an hour earlier. So I'd get up around 5:30, 5:45. I now wake up at 4 a.m. every single day because I cherish this time so much, and I now have like essentially 3 hours at the start of the day every single day for me. And I turn up as a completely different person throughout that day, completely different. And it's noticeable with other people. So it's a very powerful thing anyone can do at any moment's notice, and it doesn't cost you a penny or euro or dollar. So
I also experienced that.
Yeah, excellent.
Traveling to over 45 countries to escape your inner demons is a unique approach to self-discovery. So, what were some of the most significant lessons you learned during your travels, and how have they impacted your life?
Yeah, the biggest lesson of all is that you can quite literally travel to the other side of the world, just as I did, across multiple countries. And those inner demons are still going to be there. Mm-hmm. And in fact, they get worse because you have a lot more time and space, and you don't have the distractions of your home and your work around you. And so they get louder. And there is only one way to overcome them, and that's to turn around and face them. But without fail, every single time, and I'm going through this right now, actually, I'm facing a lot of internal inner demons, like there's sort of different levels of inner demons, and I've been confronting them head on. I haven't been, so the last couple of months I've been trying to run away from them, but I've quickly pulled myself out of that and I've started confronting them, and it's amazing because there's several there and just like, yesterday I faced one of them and it completely melted in front of me. It was like this massive problem that I thought I'd been trying to distract myself from for the last couple of months. I finally decided, like, no, I'm going to deal with this regardless of the consequences, and it fell away. And I can see that with the other ones there, like, no, I'm going to deal with this. And so certainly traveling across the world is it's probably the worst strategy you could do. Like, we all have them. It just takes a little bit of courage to turn around and face them. And the way to do that is to actually share some of this with other people. Like, a problem shared is a problem halved. And that gave me the strength to turn around and to face them. And it can be really powerful.
Yeah. Traveling is enriching us, and traveling is very good for new experiences, but it's very bad for escaping your inner demon.
It's so true. When I backpacked across Europe, it was this wonderful period of self-discovery, and I had such a great time. I felt like later when I travelled again, or multiple times I travelled, I was in a much different place. I was in a painful place, and so my logical response was to let's go and do the thing that made me feel really great when I was 18. But it didn't work. What happened was, because I was trying to escape, it got bigger and bigger. So I do think travel is a wonderful period of self-discovery, but you need to put yourself in the emotional place where you can actually use it as self-discovery and not for escapism.
Mm-hmm. Could you share some specific self-improvement practices or techniques that have had a profound impact on your personal growth and mindset?
Biggest one for mindset is exercise. It's probably not what a lot of people want to hear. I'm certainly not suggesting you need to become a bodybuilder or an Olympic athlete. It's not what it's about. A 30-minute walk every day can dramatically change your mind and your mindset over a very short period of time. For me, like, I exercise daily. I'm sort of amazed to hear myself say that, because I could never get my head around it. How can anyone exercise daily? But I do it not for physical benefits. It's not because I'm trying to get my body looking in a particular way. I do it purely for the mindset aspects. I'm exercising for my health and my mental well-being. That's the difference. And when people approach exercise in that manner, it can have a very different look and feel to it, rather than, oh, I'm overweight, I need to lose some weight, I'm going to go and exercise. That tends to be, quite negative, really.
So you're always looking for balance between your entrepreneurial endeavours and your personal growth and endurance pursuits.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Whereas before, I would have been all work, and I was all work, and that led me to a very dark place.
Mm-hmm. Many of our listeners may be aspiring entrepreneurs. Which advice would you give to someone who wants to start their own business and achieve the level of success you have?
Do it. A lot of people who want to start a business, where I find they tend to go wrong is they tend to overthink it, and they tend to procrastinate because they try to get everything like out on paper and that perfect plan in place. But one of my favorite quotes is by Mike Tyson, the boxer. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched. And that's kind of like starting a business, in that you can have this plan, but as soon as you take it out and start trying to get customers, or you start trying to work with partners or suppliers, inevitably you're going to get some punches. And so a big part of entrepreneurship is recognizing that and understanding that a business is built like in the market is built with customers. You get out there and you do stuff. The process of planning, the value you get from it is from the process rather than the plan itself. So it's not the plan that's going to make you successful. It's the fact that you've sat down, done some market research, looked at different competitors, etc., and then gone straight out and taken action. That's what will make you successful.
Endurance sports require a high level of mental and physical resilience. How do you use your endurance activities to further your personal growth, and what have you learned about yourself through these challenges?
I love quite extreme endurance events, and I do them primarily for 3 reasons. One is because they tend to involve travel, and I do love to travel, and this is a healthy form of travel. The second one is because it's that personal challenge and that personal growth. And the third one is because I know now that when I accomplish an endurance event, quite an extreme one, it will have a direct impact on other areas of my life. And so to give you an example of this, back in earlier this year, I ran across northern England. It was a 70-mile ultra marathon. And I documented the whole thing on Instagram, and it's still there that people can see. Like I document all my events on there. And I was doing this video on Instagram, and I think it was around 25 miles into it. And I was saying how that my legs went about 5-6 miles ago. So physically, my legs are gone, and I still had 55 miles to go, or 45 miles, a long way to go. And it had become a purely mental game, which I loved because that's why I'm doing it. It's for that mental development. But then I also said, but I know for a fact that when I finish this and I cross that finish line, it will have a direct impact on every other area of my life, and I won't even be trying to make that impact happen. It will happen naturally, because what the event does is it puts your mindset to a new place. You're now a person who's just run across northern England 70 miles, I think I've done about 19-20 hours. That gives you a level of confidence and a level of insight that when you then go to work the next day or the day after, whatever, you're a different person, you're a higher version of yourself, and so it has a direct impact. And so that's why I do them and what I get out of it.
In your view, what role does mindfulness play in your journey to self-improvement, and how can listeners incorporate mindfulness practices into their lives to achieve similar transformations?
So mindfulness is very important because it allows you to step away from the flurry of thoughts that we constantly have. They never stop. And mindfulness is just allowing you to almost step out of that and have a breather and just be like, whew. And what it does is it gives you perspective, and it gives you a bit more clarity about what's going on in your life. So it's very important, but people undervalue it because it's hard to measure. And the best way to measure mindfulness is to do it for a period of time. So I'll talk about the activities in a moment, but to do it for a period of time and then stop and see how you feel. But I guarantee you're not going to feel as good as you have been, but you won't recognize that until you stop doing it. Now, I mean, I practice mindfulness every day, and I do it through meditation. And at time of speaking, I've meditated, I forget the exact number, but it's around 490 days in a row. I've not missed a single day of meditation. That's how much I value it. But meditation isn't the only way to mindfulness. It could be doing a crossword, it could be doing a word search, it could be doing any form of puzzle game, it could be knitting. It could quite simply be when you get up that 30 minutes earlier and you go downstairs and you have your coffee and you don't you certainly don't look at your phone's far away, and you just don't really think of anything. That is a form of mindfulness, and it's such an amazing way to set up your day, rather than waking up completely frantic and you've got 7 emails come through and 3 unread messages on WhatsApp or your text message, and you're just a bit overstimulated and your day hasn't even started.
It's an interesting idea to stop the mindfulness practices for some time to look for the inner feelings.
Yeah.
I never thought about this.
Doing it.
Yeah,
it's so hard to measure, which is why people, I don't think, fully value it. But it's when you do it for, even if you've done it for 2 weeks and you stopped for 2 days, you would notice it. You would feel different, and the difference would not be a positive one. You wouldn't be like, it's quite hard to, you'd find it quite hard to explain, I think, but it's more like you just feel a little bit groggy and things aren't quite flowing into place like they maybe have been the previous weeks.
Thank you, Adrian, for being here with us today. Your remarkable journey and the valuable lessons you have learned along the way. Before we shut down this episode, can you share 3 tips with the audience to find and follow their path to self-improvement?
First one is to create space. Normally by waking up that little bit earlier. It's the only way you can really create it. Second one is to use that space to focus on you. So whether that's reading, meditating, going straight out for some exercise, use that space and bandwidth specifically for you. And the third one I would say is you are your biggest bottleneck. So keep that in mind, because it shows the value of why you want to do the first 2 steps.
To show our appreciation, we would like to include a link to your Instagram profile. So Adrian Knight, thanks again for your valuable participation.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to all of you listening and joining us today on the Find Yourself the Questions podcast for mindful self-empowerment and personal growth. I hope this episode inspired you to ask questions and discover yourself. Join us tomorrow for more insight questions. And next month for inspirational discussions on your path to personal growth and happiness. Maybe you're just a question away from your best year. So we did it. Thanks.